The 5 dog faces you see on the banner, that's representing the 5 primary breeds that have been used since World War II. In Vietnam, it was the large majority were German Shepherds, all donated by American families, and then Labrador Retrievers. That was the first use of the lab, was in the Vietnam War. But today, the Dutch Shepherd, German Shepherd, the German Shepherd is not the king of the working dogs today. The Belgian Malinois probably has that role, and the labs are there as well.
Talking to Johnny Mayo and Johnny first, let me say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
Yours is a little different than everybody else here in that you travel sort of with a convoy. Tell me a little bit about this display that's behind us here.
Well, in 2000, after serving in Vietnam and coming home, and for 30 years, left the Vietnam War behind. I had a group in Columbia, South Carolina called the Celebrate Freedom Foundation that got in touch with me and asked, would I put together some sort of exhibit? We both of us didn't know what to put together, but they asked me, could I do something with an exhibit to help educate people about the service of the military working dogs in Vietnam? And that was the cue for me that pushed me out there to create what I travel with today.
And what do we call the display?
Well, I have when I first put it together in 2001, I just pulled out some of those pictures that had been in a shoebox for 30 years, and enlarged some of them, put some stories to them, and then I also, found out other history of the military working dogs in Vietnam, and like the Air Force, and the Marines, and just put storylines and education pieces with those stories, but just tried to create an overall picture of the service of the Vietnam dogs, and then keying on my stories with my 2 dogs, Tiger and Kelly. My first dog's Tiger. His war in the field, it was 4 days. 4th day out, he hit a triple iron and was killed from that. So that was the longevity of some of them, just by chance. There was no guarantee that the next step could be taken for granted. And when he died, 3 days later, I was assigned Kelly, and I had Kelly the rest of my tour. And part of those stories went into the display. And then in 2003, I had an idea on cutting out kennel signs representing every service dog that served in the Vietnam War. So I created an exhibit that I traveled the country with called the War Dog Wall, and that was representing every single dog in the Vietnam War with their own kennel sign. And it was a little over 4,000 kennel signs.
What was the specialty of yours?
Army Scout dog. We were, all the handlers, the school was at Fort Benning, and that's where all the handlers originated from. The earlier handlers originated somewhere other than Fort Benning, but after the school was created, that's where all the Scout dog handlers came from. And we were all infantry, and it was just the luck of the draw and processing in a line as you step through a doorway. And this is what happened to me. You step through a doorway, and it was an NCO from the dog school asking each person in line, do you want to go to Scout Dog School, yes or no? And so it was, I've often told this story many times as a Jeopardy question. You had no clue which the right answer was. But I said yes, and stepped into another line and got set up for the dog school. We were already infantry, so it wasn't a major change other than attaching us to a dog, and then going to Vietnam as that point man. And our duty was the walk point, nothing but the walk point.
Tell me a little bit about the job and any of the experiences that you're willing to share about being in Vietnam with the dog.
Well, for a dog, one thing about being a dog handler like this, when we would go out on missions, we were never with another handler, so the war was in a way private. It was just me and the dog. I would get dropped into a company size and then attached to platoon size. I'd meet 2 or 3 of those guys by name. I was going to be there 4 or 5 days, or 1 day for a mission. Sometimes the missions only lasted 1 day. But I would never see those guys again. My next mission with another company, even another battalion. And so you never knew, for that type Scout dog work, you never knew anybody you were working with, and except the canine. He knew you, you knew him. But any other living being, you was only just part of their war for just a few days. But your dog, you were there. You were sharing the war with him, and he was your protector and trying to do what he was trained to do, to detect the Viet Cong and to detect those tripwires.
Now you also do. You tell me a lot of reenactments.
Yes.
Is that, I've never-
So this would be 2 years ago. Don Asbro called me and said, "What do you think about you and Luke being the dog team on a Huey reenactment that we're going to use to put on a show?" It's 2 Huey helicopters out of Peru, Indiana, called Huey 369. That's their foundation. And I said, on the telephone that day, I said, "Don, I don't know. I've got to think about this one. This is a big request." And after 10 years of talking to thousands of people about the dogs, my thoughts sort of reverted to what a huge honor for me, if I can handle it,
Yeah.
to honor my dogs in Vietnam, and hoping my German Shepherd Luke, because at the time, it's not every dog that wants to jump on a Huey helicopter and have fun. But I called him back 2 days later and told him, I don't know how this is going to work, but let's put my name down and let's see what I can do. And in Columbia, South Carolina, the Richland County Sheriff's Department had a Huey at Owens Field. Owens Field is a small airport in Inner Columbia. And I knew it was there, and a friend told me that's in the vehicle club that the Huey will run. They can't fly yet, but they fired up. So I called Sheriff Lott, who has been supportive over all that 10 years with supporting the war dog things I was doing. And he had me, and that was on a Thursday, and Tuesday, Luke and I went to the airport. They fired it up, and Hup Luke, up and down, and we would run off, he'd come back to the chopper.
He was good with it right from the beginning.
And this is new to him.
Yeah.
But so it worked. But as the mission in Benton Harbor worked that first event, he had a good time. It was a learning curve for him, but he was understanding the sound of a Huey, and now, after 2 years of doing it, we'll do it one more time the third weekend of June and of this year. And but when he hears a Huey, he gets excited and he's up, ready to go to the landing pad.
Right.
But it's been a good final culmination of
Exactly.
everything I've done for 14 years that we'll do this one last mission.
Well, now, when you did the first one, when you you knew it was a reenactment, you knew this is piece. Did you have?
Oh no! I mean, yes, it was.
Did you have that?
There was
anxiety from.
There was nobody in that crowd of reenactors and the people with the Lest We Forget is the name of the foundation that puts on this event. Nobody could feel what I was feeling, because my last time on a Huey with a dog was coming out of the field wounded in February 1971. And it was just it was a big emotional thing, and it was, I talked to the pilots, I talked to the crew chief, the acting crew chiefs, and all these guys are Vietnam chopper vets.
Okay.
Everybody related to flying the Hueys, they're all Vietnam Huey vets. So I mean, they sort of can understand if I request just.
Did that catch you off guard? I mean, were you kind of expecting? Okay, there's going to be an anxiety that goes with this.
Well,
or did you go? Oh man, it just took me there.
The anxiety, I've experienced that at times before, because in the early years, I have done some interviews. Those first 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, there was periods during the interview that I had to quit. I had to walk away. Even when it ended that day, it was a private time that and that night, and the next day, it was still there, but it was like the tribute, it was like the salute to Tiger and Kelly, that I'm thinking about you.
Even though it was hard, it was well.
Yes. I mean, I knew it wouldn't be easy emotionally, but it wasn't like a breakdown type thing that that years earlier, you know, I'd have had to say no in a way, but it was after that at that time, you know, 12 years of sharing, and so.
Well, Johnny, again, I appreciate your service.
Thank
I
you.
truly do, and thank you for talking to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.